so one of the questions that popped up was, do you Unitarian Universalists believe in heaven? And I like this. It says some believe in heaven. Few probably believe in hell, except for the hell that people create for themselves. And
I could see that.
I can too. That's something I think I've talked about that on the show. That I can see hell being what because I think it was in the book of Thomas, or the Gospel according to Thomas, where Jesus had talked about heaven is here now.
Right.
And on the flip side, you can see, well, if heaven's here now, I can see hell being here now. And I can also see people that are literally in hell as we walk around this earth. There's some people. And then I think it was Holly's episode, because she's like, you can almost see people that kind of go back and forth too.
Yeah.
They kind of, so
people do create a hell for themselves, so to speak. And I think when people are ruining, for instance, like the environment and the heaven, if you want to call it that we have here on earth. I mean, if there was this historical Jesus and he came back, I mean, he would go like, wait, I told you guys this was heaven. What happened?
Right.
What are you guys doing?
I had a private conversation with actually a previous guest of ours, but we were chatting about the God of the Bible, of the Old Testament, and how typically atheists think that the God of the Old Bible or the Old Testament seems to be actually evil. Like, he seems like a very angry God. And this friend of mine is like a very humanitarian, very loves nature, loves animals, and so she's like, well, yeah, if I created this beautiful earth and humanity destroyed it, I'd be pissed off too. So I was like, that's a great point. So, and she's not Christian or anything, so I just thought it was really funny. She doesn't really she's not in the Christian beliefs, but she's like, I can understand why that God would be angry. So it's kind of like, I think that goes along with what you were just saying, Julian.
Well, and as if you split the Bible into the two pieces, you're right. I mean, the Old Testament, at least as far as I read it, and believe me, I got, prizes in the Christian school for learning all these different verses and stuff. And I remember specifically thinking that, because my mom was an English teacher, so we learned a lot of like Greek mythology and, the Roman gods and things of that nature. And so I saw parallels with the Old Testament God actually, very clear to the Greek gods, meaning that, the Greek gods, they never pretended that they didn't have human traits. They were jealous of people. They had affairs, all these kind of things. So when I see that, God's a loving God, and then the next thing you know, he's flooding the entire earth and killing everybody,
right?
Because he was mad about something that he created. It makes me go like, like I'm not seeing I can actually almost believe the Greek gods a little more, because that's right. I mean, doesn't like being jealous seem like such a petty human trait? I mean, I mean, all of us fight to not be jealous of things.
Right. I've thought that many times. And the older I get, and the more, I don't want to use the word tolerant, but the more you understand people's emotions, the harder it is for me to believe God being jealous or those type of emotions. It really, I struggled with that. And it's interesting you brought that up, because that's something I've talked about many times, not on the show, but just in life, that, because I mean, you can, right now, Damien, if your kids go and have a mental breakdown, you're going to look at it from your 29-year-old self. You know what I'm saying? You're going to look at it from, you're not looking at it from your 3-year-old self or your 5-year-old self like they are. You're looking at it with hopefully a little compassion and understanding. And then if you're 60 years old and your grandkid has that same breakdown, I'm sure you're going to look at it from even different perspective at that point. So it's like we, as we get older, we start understanding the way things work a little bit more, hopefully. And so then when I think of the ultimate, God, I have a real hard time seeing him having like a short temper or something.
And I also can't see when people say, this loving God sending people to eternal damnation for something that he knew, that he created. And if he's all knowing and all loving and all seeing, he knew that you would not be convinced by whatever evidence he's left on this earth. So it's almost like he planned that you were going to go to hell. I can't see a real loving God doing that. That's why I have a problem with people with that. And the New Testament, by the way, is full of great stuff of Jesus's teachings, and that's way more along I think the vibe that most people would want to be, and emulate, taking in the prostitute, which of course the Pharisees hated, right? All the different stuff, feeding the poor. These are all traits I think that all of us would love to be like. Whereas the Old Testament God, I don't know. I just, which of course they're the same person, which is right. I mean, depending on your faith, it just seems odd to me that they such a juxtaposition between the two.